All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Lightweight has taken some serious hits lately, and what was once regarded as like the best weight class in the sport, I don't think it can be. It doesn't qualify for that anymore for me, anyways. I get that there's really high level guys at the top of that division, but it is a little top heavy, and it's just getting clogged up for too long. And it's just annoying. Okay, so we got Renato Moicano pulling out of his fight at the end of April with Armin Sarukian. And then just the other day, we had the news break that Charles Oliveira has to pull out or at least postpone his fight with Beneill Dariush, which was scheduled for UFC 288 at the beginning of May, due to an undisclosed injury. Now, I want to give my opinion and reaction on this and say what I think that they should do in the spirit of fairness, okay? But before we get into it, please like and subscribe, dude. I'd greatly appreciate it. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so Beneill Dariush, man, has been on an absolute tear, and for whatever reason, has not gotten the opportunity that he deserves. Okay, when Habib Nurmagomedov was champion, he was champion for about 2.5 years. Pop cam popped again, dude. That scares me. Okay, Habib was champion for about 2.5 years. In that time, they had to schedule 2 interim belts, and it really does look like we're gonna start seeing that again. And it's kind of like a timing issue, dude. So they wait to to schedule their Muslim champions for Abu Dhabi. It's not, I'm not trying to get extra spicy today. I'm just saying, dude, they do. They want him to fight in Abu Dhabi in October, which doesn't really work when depending on how their fight goes, they might have to take a bit of time off before they enter an actual training camp again. And then if you get a guy like Islam who fights in October, I believe, against Charles Oliveira, and then fights in February, but then decides, well, I'm not going to fight till October again. This is pretty annoying. Okay. And I thought that if that was going to be the case, Charles Oliveira and Beneill Dariush could have been for an interim title, but the only problem is that if Charles Oliveira were to have won that, I don't know that an immediate rematch would really, against Islam would, you know what I mean? He had some levels of success in terms of not getting dominated, but it wasn't like he was doing anything to threaten Islam or hurt Islam, at least in my opinion. He ended up getting dropped, which was the area that everybody thought he would at least have the advantage. But if Beneill Dariush got it, I could... The annoying thing is that when Habib was champion and we had these guys that were like in serious title contention, like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, these guys who have big names, they had Tony Ferguson, they had no problem scheduling interim title fights. But now that those guys are kind of aging out, but for whatever reason are still clogging up the top of the division, K. Dustin Poirier, I like the guy. I do. I don't think he should be ranked 2 in the lightweight division, and I get that he hasn't really lost to anybody recently, but his wins are against a guy in Conor McGregor who was unactive for many moons, okay? Many moons he was unactive for. And wasn't really even on a winning streak. I get that he had that cowboy fight in between the Habib fight and the Dustin fight, but that was for 1 at 170. 2 was Donald Cowboy Cerrone at the end of his career after he had fought a gang of killers all in a row, all within a calendar year. 5 crazy matchups all within a calendar year. I don't think that they may put a number beside Conor McGregor's name when he steps into that octagon. He should not have been ranked at lightweight, in my opinion. Michael Chandler is 2-3 since he's been here, and he's beaten Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson. Both of those wins aren't aging great, nor do they give you top 5 status, in my opinion. Like, it's just silly to me. Beneill Dariush has taken on a young contender in Mateus Gamrot, which a lot of these guys don't want to do, which is why I actually have quite a lot of respect for Justin Gaethje, despite me thinking that his personality is that of a Canadian goose. Okay, he was willing to take on Rafael Fiziev, who is a young up-and-comer that not a whole lot of people wanted to fight, and he went, yup, sure, I'll do it. I don't see these other guys doing that. And Michael Chandler should be removed from the rankings. If him and Conor are going to be fighting at 170, he should not be in the top 5 at lightweight, clogging that shit up. Because what you could do now And I get that they're saying they're going to postpone it. I don't think that that's fair to Beneill Dariush. Beneill Dariush has been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then he's gone and had a training camp, and they probably won't postpone that to another fight night. They will probably postpone that to the Canadian pay-per-view card in Vancouver, British Columbia, which I don't want them to do that. They don't deserve that fight. Don't do that. Don't put that fight on that card. Vancouver, British Columbia does not deserve that fight. Don't do that. Okay? I'm being serious. They haven't earned that. Don't do it. It makes more sense. And also, dude, you would be extending Beneill Dariush's training camp. Do you think he's going to go and like take a week off and then have a short training camp and try to peak again? Or do you think he's going to maybe slow things down a little bit for a week or two and then ramp shit up towards, you know what I mean? It's silly, man. These guys were scheduled like a week apart. Have Armin Sarukian step in, just push his thing, and I get that it's unfortunate because that was the main event of a fight night, so they would have to find a whole nother matchup really to headline that event, but pay-per-views are more important, and title contention fights are more important, man. Move Armin Sarukian up, or move Beneill Dariush back a week. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. It's just a week, okay? He just has to start his weight cut a little bit, or like he's probably fine right now. But extending them a month, like having a training camp be a week shorter is not as big of a deal than it would be to extend it by a month's time. Have Beneill Dariush fight Armin Sarukian. Move Michael Chandler out of the top 10. Get rid of him. Armin Sarukian gets bumped up to number 7, but because Michael Chandler won't be there. The winner of that fight gets to fight Islam in October. Point, done, deal, dude. Because that gives them, a month, 6 to 8 weeks of they can just go back to the gym and train. And then we would be looking at, June. They could then enter a training camp for July, August, and September and fight in October. Or like even a little bit, they could push their training camp back later. You don't need to have that big of a training camp. But I'm sure for Islam Makhachev, a 3-month training camp wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. These guys, man, really and dude, I've also chat on another guy on this channel quite frequently, Belal Muhammad. This motherfucker will fight during Ramadan. He'll fight before Ramadan. He'll fight after Ramadan. He wants to fight because I remember I heard Firas Zahabi on the Joe Rogan Experience a long time ago, many years ago, talking about Joe was asking him, well, how do you guys do that? And Firas Zahabi said that he's got a few guys that have came and trained at his gym, and I guess Belal Muhammad was one of them at this point in time because he brought him up. And he said that he tells his guys, look, if you need to do it after, do it after. If it's going to affect with you providing for you and your family, it can wait. And I get that there's going to be like Muslims that certainly don't agree with that, but those, fuck off, okay? Habib and Islam don't need to worry about that. They're rich. You know what I mean? Which is part of the reason, I think, why they're just like, yeah, I'll take 8 months off. Belal Muhammad has fought during this time before. He's done training camps during this time before. He offered to fight Colby in July. He wanted to be the backup for Leon versus Kamaru too. Like, he's not worried. He is focused on his career. You know what I mean? And now maybe if he were to become champion, that would change a little bit because he would then have the fat paychecks that come along with that. He would be like, no, you know what? I can take a year off. But this shit irritates me, man. And I've said this before, and I apologize if there are any practicing Muslims here. But if any other fighter that was not Muslim were to go to Dana White and said, I'm sorry, Dana, I can't fight too close to the month of fucking, I'm just going to throw, I don't know, August. You know what I mean? I can't fight in June or July, and I can't fight in September or October because for the entire month of August, I have to intermittent fast. That shit ain't flying, dude. And it's irritating that once these guys get the big paychecks, they're like, I'll just fuck off. And I get that he had a hard fight with Alexander Volkanovski in February, but that's 8 fucking months, dude, that he's going to be taking. I don't like Israel Adesanya. The guy defends his fucking belt. when he's champion. 3 times a year. Done. You know what I mean? He got finished by Alex Pereira and came back 5 months later to win his title back. This shit should, take precedence, in my opinion. Maybe just because I'm not religious, but Jesus Christ, man. Volkanovski defends his belt multiple times a year. 3 or 4, the guy's a savage. Lightweight is getting held up, and it's annoying. And it's not all Islam Makhachev's fault, and I get that, dude. It's not just because there's a guy who needs to participate in Ramadan, who's the champion of the division, that it's getting held up. It's getting held up because of these big names. Lightweight is not it's not. Bantamweight is the new lightweight, in my opinion, and it's much more active. You see bantamweight fights non-stop, high-level ones at that. And I know Aljamain's been a little bit fucking inactive with his title as well, but at least the top contenders are fighting each other, whereas you've got, dude, 3 guys in the top 5. Well, Justin Gaethje I'm going to exclude from that now because he just fought Fizzy, but Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler holding important spots in this division at number 2 and number 5. Just essentially waiting for money fights. Dustin Poirier is I made so much money during the Conor trilogy there that I can sit back and just be Gaethje looked good there. I'll fight him. And now we've got to wait for Gaethje to recover. And then we've got to get a deal done. And for them to go through training camp and all this other shit. Michael Chandler loses 3 out of 5 times in his UFC career. 2 of them by finish. 1 of them by a brutal beatdown, against Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Charles Oliveira. Now, to be fair, those are the guys in number 1, 2, and 3, but I don't think they should have those. Charles Oliveira, fine. But, fuck off with Dustin Poirier being at number 2, dude. They should be obligated to fight these up-and-comers. And Beneil Dariush has fucking done it, Mateusz Gamrot had a hell of a close fight with Armin Sarukian. Was looking phenomenal, was looking like he might be a championship material guy. Now, I don't think he is anymore. I've seen him now against Beneil Dariush not really be able to implement his extremely boring, in my opinion, game plan. And then, he wasn't able to do a whole lot of damage versus Jalen Turner there. But they fight each other, have a very close fight. Neither guy really loses a whole lot of stock. Dude, if I'm being honest, Armin Sarukian has a better chance to beat Beneil Dariush than Mateusz Gamrot did. And I know that Mateusz Gamrot was a huge favorite in that fight, but I think it was just because Beneil Dariush looks old as fuck. He's got crazy amounts of gray hair, and he's in his early 30s. It's very strange, but Armin Sarukian is a much better striker than Mateusz Gamrot. And he mixes in the takedowns with the striking, whereas Mateusz Gamrot, you kind of know what he's going to do. You know what I mean? He's not switch kicking you in the head like Armin Sarukian could potentially do. I think that they should make Beneil Dariush for Armin Sarukian. Forget the fact that Armin Sarukian is ranked number 8. Forget the fact that he lost to Mateusz Gamrot. I think that it should be promised, since all of these fucks want to be inactive, because we still, at this point, don't know who Islam's opponent's going to be in October. We just know that they are going to save him for October. Make that fight. Winner of that fight gets a title shot. Doesn't matter. Armin Sarukian would be a great matchup to see against Islam Makhachev. I know that they fought once before, but Armin Sarukian has improved a lot since then. And I am sick of seeing Beneil Dariush get shafted. And it would kind of suck. It would kind of seem like he's getting shafted. Now you have to fight somebody who's back the rankings. But as long as he's promised a title shot from it, do it. You know what I mean? He's sitting at number 4. Oliveira's number 1. So if he were to beat Oliveira, it would be pretty damn set in stone. He's number 1. But things can be moved around, dude. All of these guys are inactive, except for Justin Gaethje, who just fought. But it's annoying, dude. It's bloated at the top of lightweight. We need to figure some shit out here, okay? I know that Dustin Poirier says he wants to fight Justin Gaethje now, but that's honestly annoying. This is the problem. We've got these guys who just want to fight each other at the top, so that if they lose, Dustin Poirier number 2, Justin Gaethje number 3, so we just switch spots. You know what I mean? I'm still at number 3. Fuck off. You know what I mean? What about Petr Yan putting up his number 1 contender status against fucking Sean O'Malley? What about that? You know what I mean? Let's see some of that shit up here, dude. Let's see some of that shit. Let's say Jalen Turner. I know he just got beat by Mateus Gamrot, but let's say Jalen Turner fights fucking, like, you know what? I just want to see these guys actually fight up. We don't know how good the lightweight division is until we see guys like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, fucking Michael Chandler, who is still somehow ranked at number 5. Until we see these guys fight the new generation. It's annoying, and it needs to stop. And Beneil Dariush, I don't think it would be fair to push back his fight with Charles Oliveira. Now, maybe he wants to do that because he thinks that this gets me the like guaranteed title shot if I beat the number 1 contender. But then what happens if Charles Oliveira wins? And let's say it's not impressively. Let's say it's like a very close decision. Do we want to see Charles Oliveira versus Islam? He's had one defense against a featherweight, and then we're putting him back in there with the guy that he finished in round number 2. We saw the featherweight and Alexander Volkanovski, dude's built different, give Islam Makhachev the hardest fight of his fucking life. It's irritating, man. Really irritating. I feel bad for Beneil Dariush. And I feel bad for fans, too, because those are some good fights that are now either getting postponed or just scrapped. And, you know, don't put that card on the fucking Vancouver, Canada card, please, Dana White. They don't deserve it. And I'm sure Beneil Dariush doesn't want to have to pay 2 fucking countries' taxes. You know what I mean? And maybe Beneil Dariush, who's extremely religious, may not have gotten this shit. He might not even be allowed in Canada. Like, these are things that Dana White has to think about. I think this is why we don't see a lot of big names on that card. Especially guys, big American names, right? There's a few Canadians on there, there's some few Americans on there. But Colby Covington could never fight in Vancouver, Canada. You know what I mean? A bunch of guys can't. Justin Gaethje couldn't. He's same politics as Colby Covington. You know what I mean? So there's things that they need to worry about. So, anyways, dude, this is my opinion on this shit. Let me know what you guys think they should do with Beneil Dariush. If they should hold off until they get another date for Charles Oliveira, or if they should do the little switcheroo there, just push one of their fights up a week or one of them down a week, and have Armin Sarukian fight Beneil Dariush for a time. Where's the interim? Why did we have to do 2 of them for Habib, but Islam can just sit out from fucking February to October with no interim in between? It's weird that this is happening in a bunch of divisions right now, because heavyweight has now been announced that they're not going to fight in July, which is annoying as shit, dude. Fuck you, John Jones. Light heavyweight happened at the very beginning of the year, and we're not going to see that title change hands or be defended, I would imagine, until Yuri Prohaska comes back, probably the end of the year. An entire year before we see it defended. And then you got fucking welterweight Leon Edwards saying he's not fighting in July. He's fighting in October. They're trying to put together a huge Abu Dhabi card. Fuck off. Anyways, dude, like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.